of it. I'll just kind of touch on some key points in here. A lot of the information is just required letters and terminology. A lot of the financial statements are the same information, just repeated in various formats and combinations of funds. So it seems like I skip over 90% of it, but I try to touch on the key points. Feel free to stop me at any time if I skip over something or I'm going too fast. If you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt me. If we flip over on pages 5 and 6, is our independent auditor's report, essentially just stating that it's management's responsibility to prepare accurate financial statements and our responsibility to express an opinion on the financial statements. We use audit evidence to obtain our opinion. In our opinion, a qualified opinion was issued with relation to the financial statements, which just simply means that they're presented fairly, with the exception of a fixed asset number not being on the balance sheet. It's no different than it's been in years past, and no different than 99.9% of the schools in the state. Just really expensive to be able to come up with that and maintain that, and it's just really, you're just like everybody else. But other than the fixed asset number not being on there, they're presented fairly according to the regulatory basis of accounting that the State Department requires school districts to follow. And then on pages 7 and 8 is our report on internal control and compliance. And we did not identify any significant deficiencies in internal control or material weaknesses. In other words, it was a clean audit. There was nothing that we thought needed to go on the audit that needed to come to board's attention or State Department's attention. There's always recommendations and things that we like to point out, and we felt pretty comfortable with all those items, just communicating them with management while we were here. They're all minor, if you will, and immaterial. Certainly you can get with Monty if you'd like to know details on those, but not required to go to the board. It's certainly nothing that you'll have to do corrective action on or anything like that. So. And then on page 9 and 10 is just a report on internal control and compliance related to major programs. It's just required for any entity that spends over $500,000 in federal dollars, and there were no reportable conditions with that. And then, excuse me. And then on page 12, this is kind of basically a summary of those 3 letters I just mentioned. Again, a qualified opinion was issued. No instances of non-compliance, no significant deficiencies. An unqualified opinion was issued relating to major programs, which is our highest opinion regarding the major federal programs, which were special education, Title I, and child nutrition. And then essentially just none is what you're looking for down there in sections 2 and 3. If we flip over to page 15, it's basic income statement for the general fund. Wouldn't pay too much attention to the original and final budget. Those are really just kind of OCAS coding, and those are the numbers we compile over the summer when we do the estimate of needs. And then the variance is really just kind of how things are coded. So a positive or negative variance there doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It's just kind of the coding. That third column being actual revenues and expenditures. Kind of towards that first column, $15.8 million in total revenue, $15.8 million in total expenditures. So pretty much living off what you bring in, which is really the goal of just about any entity. You don't want to bring in more money than you expend, or too much more money than you expend. Not really in the business of turning a profit, but at the same time, you don't want to expend a lot more than you bring in or you deplete your fund balance. So not much change in the fund balance. $1,346,000 at the beginning of the year, $1,356,000. So increased a little bit, and with the state cuts and federal funds seeming to dry up more and more every year, just the fact that it didn't go down says a lot about the districts watching their expenditures. So. And that $1.3 million, it's about 9% of the total revenue, and really a good safety net is anywhere right around 10%. So, compared to other districts, you're kind of right there where most districts are this size. That kind of gives you that safety net to kind of weather the storm on these cuts that seem to just be growing every year. Let's skip over to the next page for a minute. Then on page 17 is the debt service fund. Not really a whole lot to talk about on that. It just shows the sinking fund payments, the amount of payment for your outstanding bond issues through tax money, and the amount that was expended to pay off those bonds. Really all that was kind of set in stone when the bonds were passed, so it just kind of shows the activity.